our next guest. He is representative of the Tennessee 8th Congressional District. His name is David Kustoff, and it's always good to catch up with what's going on over there in West Tennessee. Congressman, good afternoon. Hope you're well.
Hey, man, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on. I'm really well after the last 3 weeks. It's hard to believe that this election was 3 weeks ago today, so much has happened between now and then. But really, at least in my district in West Tennessee, people are really hopeful and optimistic about the future of the country.
I feel that way. I feel that in Middle Tennessee. I feel that in the Nashville area. I mean, maybe not everybody over in Memphis, but for the most part, I think people are hopeful from an economic standpoint, from a stability standpoint, border security. And we're going to talk about all of those things. Before I get away from it, I meant to ask you this the last time you were on, David. Is the 8th Congressional District the largest geographical district?
So, actually, I think it is. It makes up
it's big. It's big.
Right, parts of 20 counties. So it's part of Memphis. It's the suburbs of Shelby County, the municipal Germantown, Collierville, Lakeland, and then parts of 19 other counties. So 17 whole counties, parts of 3. Geographically, it is large, but it's a great district. It's a very conservative district. And you think about I know you're a student of politics and history, and I am too. And you think, gosh, 20 years ago, it was a Democrat district primarily. Mm-hmm. A lot of rural Democrats who have become Republicans and become very solid conservatives who care about their country, but ideologically they've changed a lot over the last 15 and 20 years, and it's probably, I don't know that it's the most Republican district in the state, but it may be the most conservative district in the state, if you can make that distinction.
Well, David, I don't know. I don't know if your past reflects this as well, but when I was growing up, my grandfather. I never loved a human being more than I love my grandpa, but he always called himself a Democrat because he said, well, I'm not a Republican because I'm not rich, because he was from that, that Roosevelt era. We've completely flipped now. I mean, it's hard to see this as it happens. But the Republican Party, conservatives now represent the average Joe worker. Conservatives represent that Walmart voter. We've seen it happen over my life doing what I do, and I'm certain that you've seen it happen in your district too.
I absolutely have, and I think that's a really good point. We have become the Republican Party, the party of the worker, of the working man and the working woman, and the great thing about it is, you look at what the Republican Party believes, and in my opinion, I've been a Republican all my life. We haven't sacrificed our principles or our ideals to attract those people. In large part, you look at the leadership of the Republican Party over the last X number of years, and that's Donald Trump, and we've to whatever extent have taken on who he is and his identity and what he believes. But you also think about, before he came on the scene, how people in this country viewed China, and now how they view China, and he's adapted to that. So I do think if these people who you talk about, like your grandfather and others who may have passed on, if they could come back today, they would probably identify, my guess, as Republicans and not Democrats, because of where the parties are ideologically and principally today.
Well, it's no question that there's been such a sea change as we've seen it happen before our very eyes, certainly since Trump came down the escalator. I want to ask you, any number of things in the aftermath of the election. I mean, you mentioned that you and I, David, have not had a chance to speak since this overwhelming victory on the part of Donald Trump and Republicans all across the country. I think part of it is due to our desire to see America in a stable position, involved in less entanglements around the globe. However, our commitment to Israel continues, and there's just news coming across the wire, and I'm curious your thoughts about it, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he's planning to present to his cabinet a framework for a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. I feel good about it. If Benjamin Netanyahu is presenting it, I feel good that this is a positive development. Obviously, it's just Hezbollah, not Hamas. What, and you and I have talked about it in the past, what do you consider America's involvement outside of our obvious alliance and friendship with Israel? Is it just a matter of support and offering, some material support in terms of weaponry from the United States of America to assist them in completing that mission that was sadly started by the enemy on October 7th, 2023?
Well, I think you can even take it up several levels higher. I mean, we all recognize that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. They are our only ally, and there are people who feel ideologically, for a lot of different reasons, religious reasons, that we need to support Israel. But I think we also need to realize, from our own security standpoint, that if there were no Israel, what the consequences would be for the United States. I listened when Prime Minister Netanyahu came to Washington and gave that joint address to Congress in July. We've all heard Netanyahu. He's a masterful speaker, a great orator, but he had a line, Matt, in the speech, and it was something to the effect of the enemies of Israel are the enemies of the United States. Now, he said it in a different way and a little bit more succinctly, but that's what he was saying. And so, it's certainly in our interest to make sure, for a lot of different reasons, that Israel has the resources that Israel needs to be able to defend herself. And you look at a map of Israel, and you just see Israel surrounded not only by her enemies, but by a number of enemies of the United States.
We're talking with Congressman David Kustoff about a number of issues, to include the latest developments outside of our country in Israel. Let's talk about right here at home. I mean, obviously, I feel like that immigration was the number one issue on balance across the country, because I think immigration and the economy are quite interrelated. I think immigration and crime are somewhat interrelated. Obviously the president-elect, I should say, is preparing a robust turnaround of the Biden policies with regard to asylum claims and the porous, open nature of the southern border. What can Congress do to assist President-elect Trump? And what, if anything, can you do before he's elected? I don't expect that you'll get a lot through the United States Senate. And at the same time, what can we in Tennessee do to better enforce our immigration law, David?
Yeah, so let's first talk about beforehand, because I want to rewind the clock about a year and a half. We in the House of Representatives, with a thin Republican majority, but still a Republican majority, looked at this issue, which has plagued the country for some time, but really obviously got a whole heck of a lot worse when Biden took office because of the initiatives he set forth, the executive orders, and we all saw the migration numbers, the illegal migrants rather, come through. Now almost over 8 million encounters in these last 3 years. We worked on a bill in the House of Representatives last year called the Secure the Border Act to counteract what Biden had set in motion. And the bill number was H.R. 2, which tells you something about the significance of the bill. It would have forced the Biden administration to restart construction of the border wall, deploy technology not only, Matt, to the southern border, but also to the northern border, to increase the number of border control agents and increase their pay, to end the practice of catch and release. And it did a number of other things. It passed the House. I think if Schumer had put that bill on the floor in the Senate, it would have passed. But he didn't. And so I think a number of those initiatives, especially as it relates to the border wall and technology and increasing the financial resources for President Trump so that he can hire more border patrol agents and to increase their pay, that we have to start right there.
And obviously the question then becomes about the concept of deportation. There's a lot of our liberal friends who are gnashing their teeth, wringing their hands about the concepts of quote unquote mass deportation. I clap back against the phrase. Because I don't believe you're not deporting. You might deport multiple people at one time, but you're deporting them individually for acts against the law. So you're not doing this quote unquote in mass like the liberals want to suggest. But I feel like the president elect and some of the people that he's selected to be on his team have said it quite well, Congressman, that we're going to go after the real criminal elements, the gang members, people that are coming to do direct harm to the American people. Those people are going to be targeted first for deportation. And then those that have not taken up roots. I just don't believe, and I get hit on this by my audience, some of the hardliners in the audience, but I say, I don't believe that, people that have taken up roots 20, 30 years in the United States of America, will find a different way to get them above board. But those that have been here 4 or less years, it seems like this president is determined to make it less than a desirable time to stay.
Well, not only, Matt, have you heard President Trump say that, you've also heard Tom Homan say that, who's the borders are. You're looking at the deportation of criminals who are here, those who are known criminals, and those are the first priority. And we need to do that, number one, because we need to do it. We've all seen these issues in cities across the country, including in Tennessee, but also to send the message to those who are thinking about coming across the border illegally, unlawfully, that there's a right way to come into this country, and we want that. We want people to come through the right way, through the right means. But if you're planning to sneak across the border unlawfully, that you're going to be sent back home. And so that does send the message. They're looking immediately on day one, January 20th, at deporting the worst of the worst and those who are known criminals.
Well, and some of the stories that you're seeing on the southern border right now, you just got to shut those stories down. I mean, unaccompanied minors, and I'm talking 10, 20, 30 at a time with just one or two adults with them. I mean, these are the stories that the mainstream media simply will not cover, that need to be covered and need to be stopped in a Trump administration.
Well, yeah, we've heard all types of stories. I've been to the border under President Trump. I've been under President Biden. And the cartels work, what you're describing in some respect, is activity of the cartels. And the fact that when they send underage people, especially women, across the border, there's a price tag, okay? And so those people and those families don't have the money to pay the cartels. So that means they've either have to engage in human trafficking or in drug trafficking. And the leverage that the cartels have is they can tell those people, you've got to produce. You've got either through trafficking or through drugs, and if you don't, we know where your family is in Central America or South America. And I know that sounds like a movie or a TV show, but it is absolutely real. And so when you think about that, and you think about the drugs and the fentanyl that have been brought across the southern border into our communities, into my congressional district in West Tennessee, when I have, Matt, sheriffs and police chiefs tell me that the drugs in our communities in Tennessee are brought across through the southern border, it's real. And the way to stop it is by stopping it. It's by making sure that we increase patrols. It's by continuing the construction of the border wall. I've been to parts of the southern border where you can walk along the wall and the wall just stops. So you don't have to worry about climbing over the wall or trying to cut through the wall. You just walk around the wall.
Right.
And so we need to. And I'll tell you one more thing. There was a place in New Mexico where I was walking along the wall, one of those places where the wall just stopped. And the wall is these steel beams that are about 20 feet high in the air. There were the steel beams not in the ground, but they were laying on the ground. And when I asked one of the border supervisors what I was looking at, she told me it was wall, the materials for the wall, but the order to stop construction started or was given when President Biden took office. So it really burns me up when I look at the materials for the wall that I voted on, your taxpayer money, and everybody listening, and it's just sitting out there.
Well, and they sold a bunch of it off. They sold a bunch of it off. I mean, they sold it off for pennies on the dollar, sadly. So we gotta reconstitute that, get it back going again. Real quick, in the minute or two that we have left with Congressman David Kustoff, I mean, I'm excited about where the economy is going in 2025. I'm excited about getting our inflationary rates down. I could not be more excited, and I'm curious your thoughts about the Department of Government Efficiency. I know some want to suggest that this isn't a real thing. I hope it's a real thing, because I think we could cut 20% of government spending out of the federal budget off the top, and no American would notice it. What are your thoughts, David?
I think having Elon Musk, who's one of the great visionaries, not only of our time, but in our nation's history, and Vivek Ramaswamy heading that, I've seen Elon Musk in my area. He's got a project of XAI in the Memphis area, started in the last, 6 months or so, and it's amazing what he's been able to do and cut through so much red tape. These two men are really, really smart. They're going to be thinking outside the box, and I think that's exactly what the people were demanding when they went to go vote 3 weeks ago today.
Congressman, I'm sad to leave it there, but we'll do it again very soon. Always good to catch up with you guys over a little bit to the west of us in the 8th Congressional District. Anything we can do for you, let us know.
Thank you, Matt. Have a great Thanksgiving holiday to you and all the listeners.